Good morning, Starshine. This is Smadar from Song of Stones. I'm here today with some beautiful crystals to share with you. Before I start, let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I am a crystal whisperer, which means I talk to stones and they talk to me. And these guys are singing so beautifully today. The messages that they share to me is what I call the Song of Stones. And that's where the name of Song of Stones came from. So, why am I here with you today with these lovely crystal clusters? So, for a couple reasons, let me start with this story that I just heard. Not really a story. I heard something yesterday that really captured my attention. It was about how caterpillars undergo their metamorphosis into butterflies. This is not something new. We all talk about the magic that happens when this little worm becomes this gorgeous, winged, graceful being. And really nothing in its original form will give us any indication of what it will transform into. And that's why butterflies are one of the most magical, and it's why we all know about butterflies. And someone who delves deep into animal medicine, I was surprised to learn something new about the transformation process that the butterflies experience. And this is something that is connected to what I'm going to share with you today, but it's also connected to a lot of personal messages that I've been getting in my life. So what I heard was, I was listening to a podcast with Lynn Twist, and she was talking about how the caterpillars have these cells called imaginal cells. And at first, and imaginal cells sounds amazing, sounds lovely, sounds made up. They're not, it's a scientific term. So these imaginal cells are what hold the image of the butterfly. I guess they're like the blueprint of the gorgeous winged being. Though that's my term, so don't quote me on that. And at first, the caterpillar resists and fights against these imaginal cells. So what happens is they cluster together. And it's in the clustering that they get their strength. It's in joining together. It's in becoming a community. And up until then, they had no power over the transformation, which is a really beautiful reflection of how human beings are. Look at the world that we created, and this is with us fighting against each other. Imagine what we could accomplish when we all band together, all of us. But we're not going to get into that today. Um, Today I want to talk about something that's been coming up a lot for me, and something I spoke about in the last couple of weeks if you've been following my blog posts and you're part of the crystal community and receive the Sunday Sparkles. So I've been inspired, deeply and powerfully inspired, to start offering the star songs that I co-create to a group, to a community. And first, let me talk about what the star songs are for those of you who don't know what they are. I came upon the star songs. They were a gift to me from the universe. That's the only way I can describe them. They are a co-creation of pure spring water, crystal energy. And sometimes it's not crystal energy, sometimes it's color, and sometimes it's other elements. But usually it's crystals. Angelic presence and a really deep, pure love. And I know it sounds sappy and, it's kind of woo, but it really, really does make a difference. And what happens is that this water that was once simple, everyday water is transformed into this healing, transformational, magical elixir, a crystal elixir. And those of you who work with crystals and are in the crystal world probably have heard of crystal elixirs. But if you haven't, they are basically a union of crystals and water. And some people will have them out in under the energies of a special moon, or solar energies, or there's no end to when and how you can create them. Some people will put crystals right inside the water. I don't do that. It's not something I recommend, though. If that's what you're feeling called to do, go for it. I say always do some research on the crystals, muscle test. Be careful, because the minerals anything natural can be reactive and toxic to the human body. So just do your research and make sure you're not putting something into your water that could be potentially toxic to your well-being. See, I don't do it because I don't feel it's necessary. It doesn't really matter if the crystals are inside the water or outside the water. They work just as well and maybe even more powerfully outside the water. So that's just my 2 cents. I am a big, big, big proponent of trust yourself. And in this case, also do your research and trust the experts. So I recently put out a blog called Stone Soup, and this story from my childhood came to the surface, came up in me. And I started writing to you about it. And in the story, this traveler comes into this little town, and the traveler is very hungry. And the townspeople are struggling. They barely have enough to make ends meet. They certainly don't have any extra for strangers, and they let him know that. And he is understandable, like he understands and empathizes and says, listen, I don't want anything from you. All I need is a pot and some water. I have this magical stone. And he pulls out this beautiful silk pouch, and he takes out this smooth, lovely, beautiful stone. And he says, with this stone, I can make the most amazing soup. All I need is just some water and a pot. And of course, that was something that they could easily give to him. So he started to make the soup, and the townspeople were watching, and he was licking his fingers and telling them how amazing the soup is, and it could be even more amazing if he just had a little bit of parsley, some greens, and somebody volunteered and added it to the soup, and he was stirring and smelling and tasting and saying, this is so amazing. All I need is a little bit of carrots and the soup would be even more amazing. And of course, one of the townspeople offered him some carrots. And this went on, and he ended up with potatoes and some onions and some other tasty additions and garnishes to the soup. And before you know it, a feast was created. And these townspeople who, on their own, just had, barely enough for themselves, pulled all their just little extras, just little tidbits together, and they had a feast. And this is such a beautiful story of how we could feel like we have nothing, and when we come together, we have so much. And this inspired me to offer the Star Songs to create a stone soup of energy. And it's a stone soup because each of us together, when we come together, also add our own magic. It's not just the crystals, it's our presence too. It's our energy. It's our love. It's our power. And this stone soup, this crystal elixir, this star song that we're going to create together is going to be incredibly transformational. And I'm really excited to be a part of that experience, to see what comes from it. So this morning, when I was walking in the forest, I was thinking about sharing the butterfly story with you and talking to you about the stone soup. And what do I see at my feet? This tiny, gorgeous little flying creature, this little white butterfly. Tiny. Really tiny. I could have so easily missed it. And I stood there for a moment just admiring the gracefulness of this lovely little being at my feet. and feeling the interconnectedness. Because that butterfly story was a thought in my mind, and there it was, manifest at my feet. It was really a special moment. So that's, that kind of got me to thinking about how, as human beings, we create together. We support each other. We help each other. But there's something missing from that connection, and that's consciousness. Because we're doing things without realizing. We're living our lives without realizing what all the people, all the human beings, all the synchronicity, all the power of the universe that had to align in that special way for us to create the things that we do, to create these cities, these homes, these buildings, the art, the architecture, the hospitals, and that's just on the surface. And then there's the people who haul away our garbage and keep our communities fresh and clean, and what goes on underground, the power that comes to our homes, and the waste that leaves our homes. And all of this we do for each other. And we still feel so alone. It sounds